Welcome, everybody, to Old Tales of Nevada, past and present. Glad to have you with us this week. We got a great story to tell about one of the most vintage and significant theaters here in northern Nevada. In fact, in the United States. So stay tuned. We'll have the whole conversation for you right after this.
Hi there. I'm Hugh Roy Marshall of the Marshall Mint in Virginia City, Nevada. I'm proud to announce that our 7-ingot set honoring the V&T Railroad is now finished.
That's right, Roy. These beautiful 999 silver ingots celebrate the engines from the world-famous V&T Railroad and honor Nevada's sesquicentennial. These limited edition treasures can be purchased only at the Marshall Mint in Virginia City, Nevada.
Or visit us at marshallmint.com to get yours today.
Get the Charter Spectrum Triple Play. It's more than meets the eye. With over 200 free HD channels available, it's the most HD you can get. Instant access to over 10,000 on-demand movies and shows. Plus the Charter app for live TV that jumps to mobile devices in any room. All that for $29.99 a month. Switch to Charter Spectrum Internet, faster than the speed of WOW. Take off with 60 megs of speed, bandwidth that lets multi-people multitask, stream movies, play games, watch videos, and share vines all at once. No slowdowns. Shazam! For only $29.99 a month. Just call 877-959-1634. Then pick up Charter Spectrum Voice for unlimited local and long-distance calling. And catch this. No drop calls. Stuck in a contract? Charter pays up to $500 to get you out. Charter Spectrum TV, Internet, and Voice, $29.99 a month each. Call 877-959-1634. See for yourself. Call Charter today.
Fun, fashionable, furs. Epitome of glamour for decades. Designer lines for women and men. Only the best will do. William Furs is the ultimate shopping experience for Reno, with furs, accessories, and great gift ideas. Winter is here. Enjoy savings of 20 to 50% off. Treat yourself or your loved ones and choose from thousands of pieces in our beautiful new inventory. William Furs, a full-service fur salon since 1977.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Old Tales of Nevada, past and present. I'm John O'Brien, the host of the show. And my special guest this week is Ray Owen. She's the Public Relations Director of the Piper Opera House up there on the Comstock, Virginia City. And we've been wanting to get Ray and the folks from the Opera House on the show with us to spend some time talking about that very significant theater up there, a place that all of us should visit before we kick the bucket, you might say, right?
Put it on your bucket list.
That's right. So, Ray, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John.
Good to have you with us
Nice
again.
to be here.
We were together way back in 2012. As I look back at our archives, this is our 184th show, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's been a while since we had an opportunity to talk with you about the Opera House there. And I don't think we spent the whole show doing it either. It was about other things that were going on up there, and you were just part of the show. But now we're going to focus totally on the Opera House. You know that Virginia City is just a great place to go. We have our great friend Roy Marshall, not with us today, by the way. I should say he's down in Arizona, down at a couple of gem shows down there. A little vacation for him, and he's going to come back with some great pieces that he'll have up there at the Marshall Mint. And you probably shop the Marshall Mint when you're up there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, on C Street, 96 North C Street. It has a beautiful jewelry store there where you can find one-of-a-kind estate jewelry. And every piece in that store is authentic and real. There's no synthetic stones or anything like that. It's all...
And he has a lot of Black Hills gold.
Black Hills gold, absolutely. Comstock silver, right. You know, you can buy the ingots up there. Oh, we might mention, too, the 7-piece special set of locomotive ingots he made are all complete. You can buy it, the whole set up there right now. So Marshall Mint, 96 North C Street. And then if you want to spend a couple of days up there and go to the Piper Opera House and enjoy a good meal, you can stay at the Silverland Inn and Suites down on East Street there. And that's a beautiful hotel, one of the more modern facilities up there.
But it still has the Victorian ambiance about it.
Yes, you'll find antiques. You'll find, in fact, you'll find in one of the rooms Joe Conforti's couch from the old brothel. there. Yeah, well, see, one of those
Very
theme rooms,
colorful
I think.
community.
That's for sure. So a lot of things to do up there in Virginia City, but we want to focus on the Piper's Opera House. But before we do that, Ray, we want to learn a little bit about you. And I know you're a transplant from somewhere, so tell us what your travels were and how you came to be in Nevada, especially up on the Comstock.
Very circuitous route. Spent my first career in the first 50 years of my life in California. I was born and raised in San Francisco.
Oh, beautiful town.
I worked for PG&E in telecommunications, went up through the ranks to about middle management.
Oh, wow.
I much preferred hands-on project management to supervision, but
Yeah.
But-
Well, middle management's always such a vulnerable position.
well,
Right?
it's a lot of meetings. But
Yeah.
mainly the reason I ended up where I was because I was a good team builder.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't as technical as I could have been, but I was a good team builder and had a great career with PG&E.
Wonderful.
We left the country when many of the middle managers were downsized out of the company.
Mm-hmm.
And we went through 8 years of serious reorganization. And we had a sailboat at that point for about 15 years.
Uh-huh.
So we decided to take our shot at blue water sailing.
Oh, you did?
And we went
You
to...
sail around the world?
No, I
No? Didn't get that
really
far.
want to circumnavigate. We did Mexico, Central America.
Wow.
Didn't really spend any time in the Caribbean because we had to come home for a family emergency. But we went through the canal 5 times.
You did.
We did. What an
That's adventurous, I'd
experience.
say, and risky, I would think.
Well, you go through with friends and you help take them through. And then when it's your turn, you have to hire a pilot, number one, and then you have to have crew. And the most challenging aspect of going through the canal is those line handlers up above you. They're serious cowboys.
Are they?
Oh, yeah.
They don't mess around.
No, they don't mess around. And they have monkey fists the size of my fist on the end of those lines. And heaven help you if you fail to pick one up off the deck before it goes into the water.
Uh-oh.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
So but you learn to hide from until it lands on the deck because you're the target.
Yeah, they'll throw it at you.
They'll throw it at you. You're the target. So that was a challenge.
Yeah.
But we had a great time. Then we ended up taking the boat up to Houston to come back home and spend some time with family. Going back around up the Pacific coast would have taken many, many months, and we didn't really have that much time.
Right.
But given the family situation. So we accidentally put down roots there.
Mm-hmm.
Our next trek would have been to sail across the Atlantic. We had sailed the Med in '92 on a 55-foot sloop.
Oh.
We wanted to go repeat it in
Yeah.
our own boat, but my husband's health was getting a little dicey, so we decided to give it up and take up land cruising.
Land cruising with an RV?
We ultimately bought a 40-foot fifth wheel, which brought us back west after 7 years in Houston. Came back west, and we fully intended, we were exploring the Sacramento area.
Oh, okay.
Because we had all of our families in California, both my late husband's and mine. And we got as far as the Truckee Meadows and said, what's wrong with that picture? Taxes, politics, real estate, employment.
Yeah.
So
Everything's better here.
Everything's better. So,
Yeah. So, we find that true of so many of our guests is that they have come to Reno just on a whim, looking perhaps for a place to move to because of family situations and things like that or opportunities. And they see the Truckee Meadows and all of a sudden they go, wow, this is like a gem out here in the desert, right?
Well, it was like an automatic roughly 10% salary increase because we don't have state income tax.
Yeah, isn't that wonderful? I
Well,
hope
Texas
that never
didn't
changes.
either. Texas didn't, and I think there's one on the East
Montana
Coast.
does not. Well, Montana has state income tax. They don't have sales tax. So,
Okay.
yeah. So I don't know which
It's a
is
wash.
better.
Yeah.
It's a wash, probably. But it was nice not to have to pay sales tax in Montana when I lived up there.
Well, I went to work here, just the last chapter of my careers. Went to work for a local home builder, Jim Bowden.
Oh, okay.
Out of at the time he was out of Carson City, and ultimately moved his corporate headquarters up to Reno. And
Oh, okay. So you wound up there. But you don't live in Reno proper. You actually live up on the
I
Comstock.
live on the mountain.
You live on the mountain, yeah.
I live on the Comstock.
You wanted to live up there, and that was rather than live down on the valley floor here?
Actually, my now late husband and I were planning to live in that fifth wheel for several years. We were going to build in the Highlands.
Oh, okay.
And we were one day from closing escrow when I lost him.
Oh, too bad. I'm sorry.
So,
yeah.
But I had many more years with him, given his health, than I ever thought I would. So, can't complain about that.
So you went up there and bought yourself a house then? On the Comstock?
No, I moved up there. I had been widowed several years, and I met somebody, a long time, much, much beloved school teacher and coach.
Oh, okay.
And I moved up to the Comstock to be with him.
Oh.
And eventually we parted ways, and
you're still there.
And I'm still there.
All right. Very good. And so instead of just sitting around enjoying life, it seems like with your personality that you had to be doing something. You're not just one to, sit and watch the snowfall, right?
No, I did some part-time work, including front desk at the Gold Hill Hotel for a while. And that was kind of before it was sold. It was very much of a family operation.
Yeah, now owned by the Comstock Mining Company.
Right, that's correct.
And they're doing a nice job with it up there.
They are.
Yeah. So how did you get involved with Piper Opera House?
I had two very influential characters in my life, one of whom was involved with volunteer activities in a half a dozen places around town, and Piper's needed some help, and I needed something to do to keep out of trouble. I was by myself at the time.
Which you can do up on the Comstock rather easily, I think.
Yeah, there's all kinds of trouble to get into. But I started out managing the tours.
Oh, you gave tours
on the daily basis, and then picked up on a lot of other administrative activities, and ultimately, the Opera House was purchased by Story County School District.
Oh, it was? Okay, when did that happen? 3 years ago?
3 years ago, and Tony McTimmons, who is the executive administrator to the superintendent of schools, Dr. Slavey, she became our administrator, and I supported her on all kinds of events. So I started getting more involved with event planning and management. That
Wonderful,
kind of
wonderful. So now you are the public relations director, and that's why you're here.
I'm a PR person.
A lot of people move to Reno, and we have a fairly itinerant population here.
Yes, we do.
People come in and out, and I think that's going to be more so as these big companies start moving in here, like Tesla and Switch, and there's 166 companies up there in Story County now. But a lot of people perhaps have heard the name Piper Opera House. They've heard about Virginia City and its reputation as a historical landmark, but they really don't have a lot of details about any of these places, and that's why we want to explore the Piper's Opera House, because as I mentioned in the tease, it is a significant and vintage theater here in the West, and in its day was so important, one of the more important stops for many of the important entertainers and actors and presidents even came to Virginia City to be at the Piper's Opera House. Let's talk about the history here a little bit. First of all, how did it get the name Piper's Opera House? Where does that come from?
Well, when John Piper purchased the Opera House from McGuire, that the original Opera House was McGuire's, and it was down in the red light district.
Down on D Street, I understand.
Yes, it was, where the Bank of America building is now. And John Piper changed the name, and he ran that until 1875, when the big fire just took out so much of the town.
Let's stop there, Ray. We'll get that out, and then we'll come back and get the whole story. We do have to take a break and visit with a couple of our good sponsors. So, one of our great sponsors is Charter Cable Company, one of our supporting sponsors. So you'll hear from them in the break, and we'll be back after that.
If you're a fan of Old Tales of Nevada past and present, we are proud to announce that now you can purchase any of our past episodes on our new website, talesofnevada.com. That's right, these stories of our great Nevada history are now available to you on DVD. Over 180 individual episodes featuring the people, places, and stories that have made us all so proud to live in this great state. So get yours today, A Piece of Nevada History. Visit talesofnevada.com.
At Harry's Quality Cars, the 500 vehicles in stock speak for themselves.
Most of us have one owner car fax reports.
We all have warranties. I have very low mileage.
I'm the prettiest car in stock.
I'm muscle-bound and ready for the hills.
Harry's Quality Cars, local and family owned for over 40 years on Kitski and Gentry and on South Virginia Street. Harry's cars really do speak for themselves.
Drive one of us home today!
Shoeman's Custom Cycle with a biker's bike shop. From a new set of pipes to custom renovation, building ultimate machines is our reputation. Feel the performance, experience the power. From chrome to leather, the selection doesn't quit. If it wasn't done to Shoeman's, it ain't. Shoeman's Custom Cycle with a biker's bike shop.
We've invested billions to bring you the most advanced network in the nation, Charter Spectrum. Get the most HD anywhere with Charter Spectrum TV. Over 200 high-def channels available, 10,000 instant on-demand choices, and the Charter app to watch live TV anywhere at home on your mobile devices. Just $29.99 a month. Call 866-517-6150 now. Charter Spectrum Internet accelerates you to incredible speeds. 60 megabits per second, 20 times faster than phone company DSL. Just $29.99 a month. And Charter Spectrum Voice delivers unlimited calling with none of the phone company's extra fees or taxes. Just $29.99 a month. Charter Spectrum. More free HD, faster internet, unlimited calling, and no contract to sign. Just $29.99 a month each. Call 866-517-6150 now. Charter Spectrum is here.
We're back here in Old Tales of Nevada, past and present. We're talking with Ray Owen, who's the Public Relations Director for the Piper's Opera House up in Virginia City, actually located on
B Street.
B Street, not D Street, B Street. But the original structure, the original Piper's Opera House, was on D Street, where the Bank of America building is, which isn't open right now, is it?
No.
No, they closed it.
They left town.
They left town. A town without a bank. How bad is that?
We have ATMs everywhere, and that's it.
But, Ray, tell me, that original guy, McGuire you mentioned.
McGuire.
He had theaters in other parts of the country, like San Francisco?
He built them all over the West, and one of his most famous was the Jenny Lind Theater in San Francisco. And he really knew how to build a theater. John Piper had never built a theater. In fact, he had been involved in many businesses prior to coming to the Comstock. And his first business on the Comstock was the Old Corner Bar, John Piper's Old Corner Bar. And that eventually, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but eventually burned down in 1883, and he never rebuilt it.
Oh, okay.
Which we did recently after the nonprofit purchased it from his family.
Oh, okay. So he had the fire in 75, right?
In 75.
Which took about, what, 2/3 of the city out, didn't it?
Yes, it did. It did.
And so, but that wasn't going to deter him. He must have had some resources behind him. Was he successful as a gold miner? He came up for the gold rush.
He wasn't, to my knowledge, I don't think he ever worked the actual mines, but he was involved in many things, including prostitution. He owned cribs, as they called them then. Yeah. And when he eventually went on to the legislature, this is funny to me, kind of ironic, it was thought to be somewhat of a conflict. Well, all of Nevada was built on mining and prostitution. And then it was legal everywhere, so I don't see what the conflict was. Yeah. But his corner bar was his most successful venture. And at the time, that was located where we are right now on B Street, and it was simply a facade with a few offices.
Yeah, actually, it was a
whatnot.
brick building, an office, kind of an
Right.
office structure.
Yes, it was.
Originally, from what I understand. But he started the corner bar there, and that was a very successful bar. In fact, it's there now. It's operating now, and you drive by there on a summer day, you'll see people in and outside the bar. Enjoying whatever favorite beverage they
It's
want to have.
Bill and Tammy Megan have done a terrific job of running the old corner bar.
Yeah.
They leased the property from Piper's about 5 years ago, and we just celebrated what we call our Comstock New Year at the corner bar, because the very first New Year's Eve party that they were hosting, band and all,
Yeah.
we had broken pipes upstairs
Oh.
in the Opera House, and it literally rained out the bar for the New Year's party. So we have ever since been celebrating New Year's at 9 o'clock on January 31st.
All right.
That's what we
Sounds like
do.
a winner. That sounds like a great event. I bet you it's a lot of fun. Most of the town folk show up for that one.
A lot of the locals.
A lot of locals that know the history, right? Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, he goes over to this after the first one burns down. He actually had 3 theaters altogether, didn't he?
Altogether.
Yeah. So where did he go after the first one burned down? He went up to.
He went up to his existing property at B and Union, and he built the second Opera House, which, to my knowledge, was a little bit larger than the current day structure. And he operated that from 1978 until 83.
1878.
Excuse me.
1878.
Hard to
and
think
that was
that
kind of the
far.
heyday, wasn't it, for Virginia
It
City?
was.
A lot of things going on then.
Very, very huge population because of the mining and
About 20,000 people.
I've heard numbers, John, of everything from 20 to 60.
Really?
And I honestly,
Where
I
would
don't
you
know.
put them all? You know.
I don't know.
And what happened to that opera house?
He had an office apartment up in the northeast corner of the building, and late one night, he accidentally set the place on fire himself. John Piper himself. He, I guess it was due to an unattended cigar, or that's as the story goes.
Yeah.
And that house burned down. And by this time, he was very reluctant to build a third time.
Yeah.
But John Mackey was an enormous fan of the arts, and particularly of Piper's Opera House. He never put any money into the structure itself, but he would subsidize the shows that didn't break even, and he strongly encouraged Piper to rebuild. Mackey had he was a presence at the Opera House always,
All the
and
time.
he sat in that lower right-hand front box.
Oh, he did.
And he
huh?
would sit in the corner of that box, and he would kibitz literally with the performers on stage.
Oh, really?
And because the acoustics in the Opera House are so incredible,
Yeah.
lots of people
Yeah.
overheard his conversations.
Isn't that something? Wow.
And we don't use a lot of microphones there. We did, about 6 years ago, we were doing a lot of plays in the Opera House and dinner theater and that sort of thing. And to prove the acoustics are so amazing, I was backstage. We were doing a Neil Simon play, and we were kibitzing backstage. And I'm sure we weren't talking much more than a whisper. Our stage director for that particular show was all the way back by the theater doors, came marching up the stairs and backstage, and she said, "Will you shut up?" She said, "We cannot discern what you're saying, but we can hear you."
Actually hear that, yeah. So the second opera house that he burned down by accident, was that a popular venue then?
Yes, it
At
was.
that time, a lot of people showing up for that, and a lot of the actors and entertainers would visit there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, and that was probably started the legend of Lily Langtree. The list of performers is hugely long, and from
Yeah.
the Barrymores to the Drews to the.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the people that were there. Well, President Grant, but I don't know if it was at that opera house or the third opera house.
I'm unsure of that.
Yeah,
as
but
well.
1878. Yeah, I don't know when. I have to look at my history.
Wasn't it between presidential elections or right before he was elected?
Could have been Buffalo Bill, Al Jolson, Mark Twain. Of course, you know those are. Al Jolson was in the 20s or so.
Right.
Anyway, it was a very significant place to be.
It was, and probably Mark Twain never actually spoke at the third Opera House. He most likely did at the second one. But Mark Twain was more of a presence in the old corner bar. He loved to rub elbows. I mean, this is where the elite of the Comstock, well, at least the male gender, you have to remember, would get together, and he and DeQuille would just love to mix it up with the mine owners and, the bankers and the lawyers and whatnot. So he spent a lot of time there. Maud Adams, as far as the research I've done on the web, was probably the most iconic and the most incredibly successful performer to ever appear
Maud
there.
Adams. I have not heard that name. What did she do that made it so?
Well, she was a tiny, tiny little bird of a lady, probably 5 foot and about this big around. Tiny little girl. She first appeared on that stage with her mother, who was kind of a mediocre actress of her own, at about age between 5 and 6. Wow. And whether it was a speaking role or not, I don't recall. But she, by the time she was 12, had pretty much exceeded her mother's skill set. And she went on to bring in roles like she did the first role of Peter Pan in this country.
Oh, no kidding. Well,
she was that small, that small and that good.
Yeah.
She was phenomenal. She was totally dedicated to the stage, never married, nor had children. And
did she live on the Comstock, or she must have traveled?
She traveled around, and I want to come back to that because that's how the shows worked. Not just one theater owner would bring troupe after troupe after troupe to town, but collectively all the theaters in the West, maybe 18 or 20 of them, would get together and would generate contracts to bring X number of troops. And it could have been opera, stage plays, mimes, political rallies, whatever. And they would move from theater to theater to theater all the way around. And they would each one pick up their portion of the expenses. And that's where Mackey played an enormous part, because if one troupe didn't fill the house or make enough money, he subsidized.
Yeah, I wonder what the average ticket price was to go to the shows in those days.
The balcony, which, well, you'd have to really see this to appreciate it, but it's not a very large balcony. It's rather shallow and comes down both sides of the house. Piper would put 400 miners standing room in that balcony, but you have to remember the stature of a 40-year-old miner was probably of a really skinny 12-year-old today.
Yeah, they weren't very well nourished.
No, they were just
plus where they were
much smaller. I don't know whether you have the stats there, but my understanding is President Grant, even though he was a portly guy, he probably wasn't 5'6".
Right. Well, the guys down in the mines, they're working in those hot temperatures, and they worked hard. And their life expectancy wasn't too long either. It was about 30 years old or something.
Maybe 40.
40.
I think 40 was probably old, but to his ticket price in the balcony, 50 cents.
50 cents.
A piece. And a really good daily miner made maybe $4 a day if they were lucky. There were about 600 seats, spindleback or bench seats. I'm not sure which, combination of both, on the main floor. And they were the middle class tickets, and they paid $1 a piece. $1 a piece. And the lower boxes, Mackey, and if they were sold in Piper's box on the left, they would put 8 to 10 little spindleback chairs in there, and that many people in that box. $20 was not uncommon.
Really, $20.
I mean, you can see a concert today for $20.
Yeah, right. So that was special.
Just have to imagine that kind of money.
Yeah, for sure. Now, the second opera house that he burned down, that went away, and then he got talked into making this present house that we see up there today, and it had some special structural, features that you wouldn't expect in those days. And I wanted to ask you about why he did it the way he did it, if there was a reason for it. For example, the floor has springs in it, right? He put springs in the floor. Why was that?
My understanding, and I'm not a history, aficionado myself, but the floor is sprung. My assumption was that because there are no buildings on the Comstock that are sitting directly on bedrock, everything is over mine shafts underneath. So it's a very unstable environment. And it is earthquake country, not as seriously as California, but it is. So I'm assuming that was to manage the settling
of the floors and so.
The benefit from that, have you ever danced ballroom dancing on a sprung floor?
It's got to be special.
Oh, it is.
It gives you more spring to your step, I suppose. Let's take another break here. We'll come back, and I want to explore that a little bit more. So stay tuned. More of Old Tales Nevada, past and present, right after this.
Fun, fashionable furs. Epitome of glamour for decades. Designer lines for women and men. Only the best will do. William Furs is the ultimate shopping experience for Reno, with furs, accessories, and great gift ideas. Winter is here. Enjoy savings of 20 to 50% off. Treat yourself or your loved ones and choose from thousands of pieces in our beautiful new inventory. William Furs, a full-service fur salon since 1977.
Deluxe Travel has been serving the Northern Nevada business and leisure traveler for over 30 years. Make 2014 the year Deluxe Travel meets your travel needs. Don't be fooled that you can find better deals on internet travel sites. Deluxe Travel will always get the best prices and provide the personal service you deserve. Let Deluxe Travel send you on your travel destinations today. Deluxe Travel, the official travel agency for Old Tales in Nevada and most Reno businesses. Have a great trip.
At Harry's Quality Cars, the 500 vehicles in stock speak for themselves.
Most of us have one owner car fax reports.
We all have warranties. I have very low mileage.
I'm the prettiest car in stock.
I'm muscle-bound and ready for the hills.
Harry's Quality Cars, local and family owned for over 40 years on Kitski and Gentry and on South Virginia Street. Harry's cars really do speak for themselves.
Drive one of us home today!
Hi, and welcome to Boutique Elegante. We're so excited about the new fall fashions. Of course, denim is still the key word for casual fall. Team with tunics or sweaters, you'll look great. That's over-cargo pants in the Loden for fall colors. Coat sweaters so perfect for fall weather, done in high-fashion designs. You'll find the perfect ensemble for your special evening at the theater, the cruise, Reno, or San Francisco. All of this and so much more at Boutique Elegante.
Welcome back to Old Tales in Nevada, past and present. We're talking with Ray Owen, who is the Public Relations Director for the very fantastic and historical Piper's Opera House up there on B Street in Virginia City. If you've not been there, take advantage to go there, either for a tour or for a special event that happens up there. You have all kinds of things going on a regular basis. So
we do.
You can find that on their website. What is the website there?
The website, that we're just rebuilding it now, is pipersoperahouse.net.
.net. You can see the calendar of events and ticket prices, all that kind of thing right there. But we were talking about the third opera house, third opportunity for Pipers to build an opera house up there. And he put in these special architectural features, one being the floor, which has the springs in it, and you were telling us how wonderful that is if you're going to dance on the floor, right?
It's fun, and we do a lot of children's tours in order to let them work off some of their energy and keep their focus. I always take them up to the front of the theater and telling them about how the floor is sprung, and if you jump up and down, everybody around you can feel it. And so then we turn them loose for about a minute, and just let them work it off, and then
okay. But you can actually feel the give in the floor, and I imagine it helps with the sound too, right?
It most likely does. I think one of the main factors, and although I had a music teacher come in and say, "Oh, baloney, it's just not possible," all the walls are covered in fabric.
Oh, they are.
And the reason that Piper did some of the things we're talking about is he was somewhat broke by the time he built this third house. Every scrap of material, from the windows to the original wooden beams that supported the structure, they were all salvaged. The overhead balcony is suspended. That was unique.
Yeah, that's unique
suspended
too.
with iron rods that came from a local foundry. All of the materials were used, and probably much of it had been through previous fires.
Oh, okay.
And in the second floor lobby, one of the walls was left exposed so that you could see what kind of materials he was actually dealing with.
Wow.
A lot of it had been burned, and people ask, well, was that done for special effect? No, that's what the man had to work with.
Yeah, right. Good thing, too. But he built this beautiful theater. It's appointed very nicely. I mean, it's got the boxes. What do they call them? Not a sky box.
They're proscenium boxes.
Proscenium boxes.
Proscenium boxes. It's a theater term, and I looked it up in the dictionary and couldn't find a really definitive description
private
of the
box,
word. But
yeah, private box like you'd see, and we'll have this on screen for you. But I noticed there was 3 on each side at least, right?
lower boxes on each side and then upper boxes on each side. And the story about the upper boxes, I've never seen this on the way I've been trying to research it, but I've been told this is the way it was. The upper boxes were for the ladies of the evening that might have been escorted by the big bucks gentlemen in the lower boxes.
The Copper Kings were down below.
And the Copper Kings were below. And I was told that they had sheer gauze curtains across the upper boxes, so the middle-class ladies down on the theater floor didn't have to acknowledge them.
Well, they took everything into consideration there. Huh?
They did.
Okay.
They did.
But I noticed the curtaining, the curtains they had on the stage and the background was very well done.
And it was all the color theme was chosen by the then current Piper's ladies, and they wanted, over decades and decades and decades, as the house was passed down from one generation to the next, they wanted the theme to be kept the same. I'll come back to that in a few minutes. So we made what we thought was a minor change, and it came back to bite us in the fanny.
Oh, really?
When the current matriarch of the, well, let's see, it would be the Piper, I'm trying to think what the married name was. It escapes me right at the moment. Anyway, she came to town, 96-year-old lady, and she liked most everything of what we had done as a nonprofit to maintain and to manage the house. But she said, "You've changed the lower color scheme, and that would be so unacceptable." It was Zimmer Driggs, that's what it was. The granddaughter of John Piper redid the opera house and kept everything the same. The drapes you're talking about, all the color tones.
Right.
And she did that in 1972.
Wow.
Before they reopened.
So you took the liberty to change the color a little bit, and she didn't appreciate it.
That she didn't. They painted the outside of the house yellow, because prior to that, we were virtually invisible to C Street. So understand why they did the outside, but they brought it in and they painted below the chair rail, painted it all that bright yellow.
Yellow.
I agreed with this little old lady, and I said, well, the next board meeting, I'll bring that up, and if they'll give me a crew and some paint, we'll fix that.
Fix that, get it back to the original. So I imagine it was kind of a beige look to start with, huh? It wasn't bright colors.
It wasn't bright. It was like a pearl gray or a slate blue-gray, kind of a light blue-gray. And then the trim on the proscenium boxes had some coral, peachy tones into it, and then cream-colored there. And the drapes were all burgundy, and the wallpapering in the back of the boxes was burgundy, fleur-de-lis.
Now, was it mostly musicals that they had there, or was it opera? I mean, they call it the Opera House. So was there a lot of opera, that kind of thing, Italian operas?
At the time?
Yeah.
I think the most famous female opera singer was by the name of Robertson. And up on the front, that would be the north side wall, there is a photograph and a little bit of a story about her. But John Piper, back to the structural question that you asked me, why did he do some of the things he did? He made the floor flat. That was not traditional. And the reason he did it was he knew he couldn't have a high-end troupe in there every week. He wanted flexibility to be able to do any kind of thing, including dancing. They did, in more modern times, skating and basketball. And, and they have done boxing in the house. And they would come in, and this would be standing room only. They'd put us spec-size boxing ring in the center of the floor.
Amazing.
Well, of course, you couldn't do that if you had a terrace
Right.
with fixed seating.
Yeah.
Now, to offset that, the other unique thing he did was he raked the stage about, what's the percent? It was about 8 inches higher upstage than down.
Okay.
And from sitting flat on the floor, he wanted the person in the very last row to have a total, complete view of the stage. In Victorian times, there were some pretty bawdy shows that went on then, but just a little bit of ankle lace on a dancer was pretty exotic at the time. And he wanted that patron in the back of the house to not miss a thing, so he raked the stage. Well, it was interesting because your floodlights then were open flame. And so you're dancing around, pirouetting around on a stage that, 1 foot's higher than the other when you're doing your spins.
Yeah, right.
And they set more than a few costumes on fire.
Oh, they did? Oh,
it made great light.
Yeah, well, fire was a big problem up there, that's for sure, and he was aware of that. So how long did the Opera House stay functional and prosperous as an entertainment venue?
Well into the turn of the century, when John Piper died in 1897, and he was only about 62 or 3.
Heart attack or something?
He'd been attacked virtually by some thugs in Virginia City and beaten pretty badly at one point, and he never really recovered very well from that. And he went back home to San Francisco, and that was where he was living when he passed away.
Oh, too bad.
And he turned over the operation to his son, Edward, I believe it was. And he ran it until 1907 when he passed away. And then it kind of limped along in through the 20s. And then structural issues just became untenable, and they shut it down at least 2 to 3 times.
They did
in the
became
20th century
for a while.
And made repairs and then would reopen it. The last time it was actively run by the family, it was opened in 1972-73 by Louise Zimmer Driggs, which was his granddaughter. And her daughter managed the house, and actually Carol Marshall, she actually performed as well.
Okay.
And they kept it open then for about another 10 years.
Okay.
And then,
who was the opera singer that was so famous up there and sang the song, Oh Nevada, I guess is the name.
Was that Emma Nevada?
Emma Nevada.
Emma Nevada. I believe it was. There was another one
that sang that song.
I think it was Emma Nevada.
Emma Nevada, yeah. And she sang there, didn't she?
Yes.
And she was a kind of a regular there, wasn't she?
Yes, she was.
Yeah.
The Miners' very favorite entertainer was Minkin.
Minkin?
No, Ada Minkin. I can't remember her last name.
Singer?
She did the role of what they called Mazeppa, which was tantamount to... what's the one? The nude on the stallion with the long hair.
Oh, Godiva? Lady
Godiva,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
She did that role, and they loved her. And the way that they showed how much they loved and appreciated her, if the show was a turnoff and people weren't happy, they'd throw, who knows, tomatoes, eggs, whatever.
Really?
If they liked the show, they would throw coins.
Oh, well, that's
coins,
good.
which were quite the premium, given how much money they made in the day. And the Miners got together and presented her with a brick of sterling silver, 16 or 18 ounces.
Oh, that's pretty valuable back in those days.
And they didn't throw it at her.
They handed it to her, huh? Yeah, so that's fantastic. So they actually shut it down a couple of times, and I imagine while it was shut down, it really, the condition just continued to get worse, right?
Over time, the roof started collapsing, as well as, it wasn't holding up well to the weather.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long it had been shut down, maybe 10 years, when Louise Zimmer Driggs sold the house to it was a nonprofit created.
Oh, okay.
For
up in
Pipers.
Virginia City,
yes,
yeah. Well, it was good that
nonprofit
somebody thought enough of the structure, because sometimes in Nevada, when things get old, they just blow it up and start all over again.
Well, we're surrounded by barely standing mining shacks, all over Virginia City and down into Gold Hill, and they let them fall down. But heaven forbid, you should go in there and try and salvage some wood out of it. That's just not.
You just don't do that.
You can't do it.
You don't touch anything. You have a hard time even taking anything from the tailings up there without getting in trouble, right?
So the nonprofit put, I'd say, I don't know how many millions into it today, up through today, and they put a new roof on it. They replaced a lot of the fabric which covered the walls, and the fabric, again, was put over the walls to cover salvage material, which I mentioned earlier.
And
to
soundproofing and all
aesthetic,
that.
yeah.
Let's take another break here, Ray, and then we'll come back and talk further about restoration and what you're doing with this beautiful structure up there in Virginia City so that we can see it for years to come. Back with more on Old Tales of Nevada right after we hear from a couple more of our great sponsors that support our show.
Hi there, I'm Hugh Roy Marshall of the Marshall Mint in Virginia City, Nevada. I'm proud to announce that our 7-ingot set honoring the V&T Railroad is now finished.
That's right, Roy. These beautiful 999 silver ingots celebrate the engines from the world-famous V&T Railroad and honor Nevada's sesquicentennial. These limited edition treasures can be purchased only at the Marshall Mint in Virginia City, Nevada.
Or visit us at marshallmint.com to get yours today.
Get the Charter Spectrum Triple Play. It's more than meets the eye. With over 200 free HD channels available, it's the most HD you can get. Instant access to over 10,000 on-demand movies and shows. Plus the Charter app for live TV that jumps to mobile devices in any room. All that for $29.99 a month. Switch to Charter Spectrum Internet, faster than the speed of WOW. Take off with 60 megs of speed, bandwidth that lets multi-people multitask, stream movies, play games, watch videos, and share vines all at once. No slowdowns. Shazam! For only $29.99 a month. Just call 877-959-1634. Then pick up Charter Spectrum Voice for unlimited local and long-distance calling. And catch this. No drop calls. Stuck in a contract? Charter pays up to $500 to get you out. Charter Spectrum TV, Internet, and Voice, $29.99 a month each. Call 877-959-1634. See for yourself. Call Charter today.
We're back for our last segment here on Old Tales of Nevada, past and present. We're glad you're with us today. We're talking with Ray Owen. She's the Public Relations Director for the Piper's Opera House, actually the third structure built with that name. And what a great structure, what a great entertainment venue it was for many, many years for the miners and others who surrounded the area at that time. And over time, it has become, or it did become, rather derelict in condition, and probably would have fell down if left to its own devices, because we know up in Virginia City there are some buildings like that are in really bad shape, and they need to be concerned with that as well. But a nonprofit took it over back in what year?
In 1997, nonprofit took it over, and they did several things of great substance. Put a new roof on it. They had to go under the back end of the building, which would be under the stage. They had to dig out a lot of the old wooden square beams, and they had to replace them with steel.
Oh, okay.
They have since had to put steel on the north wall because it was starting to collapse.
Wow.
Again, John Piper used salvage materials. He didn't have 190-foot high wooden beams, and so he virtually did this with them to hold up the north and the south sides of the house.
Wow.
And over time, the north end buckled, and we had to put steel in. That was a $100,000 job, which is done with grant money.
Yeah. Is it a landmark? Is it actually an historical landmark? Do you have that designation?
It is, but it's my understanding the entire Virginia City is an historical landmark as well. And in more recent times, the house was purchased by the local school district, and that brought about a lot of change to the Opera House because now it's an extension of the school campus for all three levels of school. The drama class comes up there 4 days a week and does their classroom instruction right on the stage.
Yeah.
The middle schoolers and elementary schools do their graduations there. They do all their parties and their fundraising. But we also have rented the house out for private weddings on a very regular basis.
Oh, is that right? I
And
imagine that's big business up there for that.
It brings in great revenue.
Very unique venue for that. You can do a reception, everything right there.
You could do it.
Yeah.
I myself had the privilege of being married on the stage at Piper's to my current husband.
Started a
2
trend.
years ago, and we had our wedding reception there 6 months later. Nobody wanted to come in the wintertime, so.
There you go. So now, before we get into the modern day and future of the house, what you were telling me, one of our historians in the state had a nice little story about the Opera House. I don't want to get by without talking about that.
No, I'm glad you reminded me of that. Ron James has been so actively involved in every aspect of Nevada history. Archaeology, I think, being his primary interest. And he still, although he's retired out of the university system, he still brings archaeological student groups in every now and then, and he does his own tours. I follow him around like a little duck because I always learn something new whenever he comes. And he's always been very straightforward, very studious, etc. And he said to his students one day, you know, people think Ford Theater is the most vintage theater in this country. But you know what? The only thing they have on us is they shot a president. You just send us a president, and we'll take care of that, and we'll get right back up there, and we will be the vintage theater in the United States. Doesn't matter which party, just send us one. We'll take care of it. And I thought, oh, I missed that sense of humor prior.
Yeah. Well, he's retired now. He doesn't have to be as serious, right?
Well, he's doing a lot of work for the CMI, Comstock Mining, in terms of historical preservation.
Yeah, because they want to maintain that strip there.
And the depot behind Gold Hill, they're doing some work there. And
that's great. Well, they did some archaeological digs right there at below the corner bar, I understand, and they found some significant artifacts there, didn't they?
They did, and one of the reasons that I think they did that particular dig before we rebuilt the bar was to make it as authentic as possible. And it's got very much the feel of the upstairs in the theater. The color scheme is the same.
So it's pretty original in the corner bar, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty original. So now, so modern day, you're still working on restoration, trying to replace fabric, trying to shore up whatever's not straight in the structure. Mr. Ferrari's helping you with that, right? Ferrari
has in the past. I don't know if there's Jim Collins, a local contractor, has done an enormous amount of work on the Opera House for us.
Super.
Much of it pro bono. It's just been really awesome.
That's great. Now, what are you doing? Are you doing weddings? You said weddings. Okay.
Concerts.
And concerts. Anything of significance coming up that we would want to know about?
We do have on the Spring Vibes, Street Vibes weekend, which is the 5th and maybe the 6th, and that would be June if I'm not mistaken, we're having a Leonard Skinner tribute band.
Oh, great.
Skinner Leonard, I think is what they're called.
Oh, Skinner Leonard.
They're, I provided a copy of a flyer for that.
Here it is.
So we
is
might,
that what this is here?
No, that's the very first event coming up. This is the first time we've done this, the Father-Daughter Dance.
Oh.
Is that sweet?
Oh, yeah.
Father-Daughter Dance.
Very cool.
On the 28th, I think it is, of February. And they've got ticket sales going on for that right now. Then we have... in August, we have Dick Staney coming back for the 3rd time.
Who's he?
He's a cowboy poet.
Oh, okay.
Very, very, very
I always
well
thought that
known.
would go well up there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he'll go to the Cowboy Poet get-together in Minden or Garnerville, and then he'll roll off and do a night or two show at Piper's. In the past, we've been also had Mary Kay Nappus. She's just female cowboy poet. She's awesome.
Really? Yeah, I love cowboy poetry. We've had him on the show. We had I can't remember his name right now, but he was a lot of fun to listen to as well.
Well, Dave Stamey tells some really interesting stories between the songs. The balls that are coming up, significant balls. In the fall, the steampunk ball, which is always really colorful, and then followed by the governor's ball right around the same time.
Yeah, well, it's a place you want to go and see because of the historical aspects of that theater. I mean, just being where President Grant attended, where Mackey sat, where all of these entertainers like Al Jolson, just to mention one that we mentioned earlier, to be on that same stage and around that same environment, it's just got to be...
It's kind of a magical
venue.
Yeah, it really is.
It's going to a special place, you know?
But what makes me happy is that the fact that the school district is managing it we're being used, the house is being used more like a community center these days. And that's really good because it needs to be populated and used on a regular basis so that people can...
They can see it, they can feel it, they can make a friend of that structure and make it better as time goes on. We don't want to lose structures like that, you know. Now, are you paid staff or are you volunteer?
No, I'm a volunteer, and all of those who've done the daily tours in the past have been, with one brief exception, have been volunteers. We are so excited about a change coming up, and this is going to affect the tours. I don't know quite how that's going to work, but Patrick Gilmore, who currently works for the county.
We know Patrick. We love him.
Center.
Great guy.
He's retiring from the county, and we have had the good fortune to get him to agree to come to work for Pipers.
Wonderful.
So he'll be on staff, and we're excited about that because of his marketing background.
Well, his marketing background, he has so many connections. He's going to bring so many people to that structure, to that house that haven't been there before. He's just able to do it. So, boy, we just wish him the best success. You know, a great addition to your staff. Yeah. Now, you've been talking about tours. How often do you run the tours?
Well, in the past, we've run them from the 1st of June through the end of October. Last year, they ran them through the end of September. And they actually hired a tour guide. I had been managing the tours with about 8 to 10 volunteers, and they're becoming scarcer and scarcer. So it was just a little stressful to try and keep it all going. So now when Patrick comes on board...
No tours in the wintertime. No. Like this winter has been very open.
Well, you can book a private tour.
Oh, okay.
We'll do those any time of the year.
Is it cost? Is that free?
No. For the school children, they have their tours out of season, and those are free because they're part of the public school system. Seniors, we have Road Scholars who are headquartered, I think, in the Northwest. They bring seniors together from all around the country and Europe, and they bring tours of 20 to 30 in at a time, and they pay a nominal $3 a piece.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's nothing at all. Yeah. So, well, we have 1 minute left, and we want to thank you so much for taking time to come off the hill and talk with us about the Pipers Opera House.
My pleasure.
And if people want to help out with if they want to help out with volunteering and so on, how do they get a hold of you? Have a phone number?
They can. Well, when Patrick takes over administration, the Opera House phone number is 775-847-0433.
Okay, very good.
We can always get a message to any one of us.
Super. Well, thanks so much for being with us. We got a lot of insight on the history of the house up there, which is something I wanted to do for a long time. It really brings us pride to have such an historical artifact available to us that's still operating and still full of just great history and a great future. So look forward to seeing what's going to happen up there. I'd like to thank the audience for being with us today and enjoying the conversation as well. And for Ray and myself, and for you, Roy, in absentia here, we'd like to say thanks for being with us and look forward to next week's show. In the meantime, we wish you a great Nevada day.
If you're a fan of Old Tales of Nevada past and present, we are proud to announce that now you can purchase any of our past episodes on our new website, talesofnevada.com. That's right, these stories of our great Nevada history are now available to you on DVD. Over 180 individual episodes featuring the people, places, and stories that have made us all so proud to live in this great state. So get yours today, a piece of Nevada history. Visit talesofnevada.com.